Hello everyone, welcome to today's Novedge webinar. Today's webinar, Simply Physical, Artlantis 6.5 New Features. This presentation will feature the most important assets of Artlantis with highlights of the latest features introduced with this new release. Network rendering, materials, white model, and site insertion are only a few of the most important topics of the webinar. The new physically correct Artlantis Render 6.5 rendering engine, with its legendary simplicity, allows you to create visualizations of incomparable beauty and quality. Our webinar presenter, Ildiko Szabo, is a trained architect who has been a member of the Advent team since 2001. Ildiko has followed the evolution of Artlantis closely and has acquired vast experience in architectural visualization in general. But before we get going, I want to show you a little bit what the Novedge page looks like and the product page for Artlantis. As you know, Novedge is one of the largest online stores for design software, and we offer a huge assortment of software solutions. So there's software for every designer's need. Come visit us at novedge.com. And for more daily software news or promotions, also check us out on Facebook, Google+, Twitter, or, visit the Novedge blog. Coming up in 2 weeks, a webinar on V-Ray for SketchUp. Here we go. Last but not least, today's webinar is free and is being recorded. And if you want to rewatch it, just go on the Novedge page on YouTube and Vimeo, the Novedge channel. And now, without further ado, I'm going to share Ildiko's screen and get this show going. Here we go. You should be able to see Ildiko's screen.
Yes, I'm just accepting. Yeah.
Here it is.
Can you see my screen?
Screen is all the screen is all yours, Ildiko. Take it away.
Okay, I take over the speech too then. So welcome everybody to this webinar. I'm really happy to participate together with you at this great Novedge webinar. We have the occasion time to time. Whenever there is a new release, there is something new to share with you about our products. So this time I will share some novelties around Artlantis 6.5. And in the meantime, for all those not being familiar with Artlantis yet, I will also highlight generalities around Artlantis, the general most important features of Artlantis, pointing always the novelties around. So I'm already sharing my screen, and what you see here is the homepage of Artlantis at artlantis.com. You are welcome to visit. And there is already a very nice rendering featured on the home side done in Artlantis 6.5. And right below this nice rendering, there are two questions. What is Artlantis in fact, and who uses Artlantis? So let me quickly run through these main questions for to introduce you Artlantis, which is a standalone rendering application specially designed for architects, interior designers, urban planners, landscape architects, or in fact to anybody who would like to set up a nice presentation out of a 3D model. And this 3D model should be created in an external 3D modeler, of course, being a standalone Artlantis as an application. And to make this collaboration smooth between the modeler and Artlantis, Artlantis is able to open the most common file formats, and it has dedicated plugins for ArchiCAD, Revit, Rhino, SketchUp, Vectorworks. So all this are supporting the back and forth transition of the model without losing the work in Artlantis and not stopping the progression of the rendering creation. Artlantis is a product line which is composed of two main products. The first one is called Artlantis Render, which is able to do still image renderings, and Artlantis Studio is the second product, which in addition to still images is able to do VR objects, panoramas and animations. So after all these generalities were set, let me reveal the interface of Artlantis. Here we are, and I already share with you a nice project, and first of all the credits for this project I'm using in this presentation. It's a building in France, which is owned by Fédération Française du Bâtiment du Val d'Oise. And you also see the names of the architects: Atrium Architecture 95, Archival Studio 4. And after all this was set, let me start and speak about the interface. First of all, you see the different inspectors. Each inspector group parameters around very important topics, let's say, which are the shaders, the objects, the lights, the heliodone, and the perspective, so the camera inspector. Each inspector has a drawer which includes elements specific for this inspector. And now it's time to introduce you the most important feature of this interface, which is called the real-time preview window. The real-time preview window helps us to have an instant feedback of all the settings we are doing in Artlantis. So this feedback, where I'm navigating, I'm just changing the position of the mouse, is refreshed, so the window will all the time being refreshed to display the last setting, to display the last change in a light model, which is called global illumination, so which is the most innovative way to reproduce the light behavior in a virtual environment. This real-time preview window's quality is consistent with the final rendering, so the feedback we get here is reliable, is very reliable, and this helps us to progress much faster during the setup. This preview window also is enhanced to be able to edit the rendering. So we will do a lot of settings right inside the preview. As you already noticed, I'm just navigating all my mouse buttons. I have a 3-button mouse, are doing something different, zoom in, zoom out, turning, rotating around the camera, so forth. And in a moment I'm releasing the mouse button, then the preview is refreshed and the scene is displayed in global illumination. You may note different display mode of the preview. In a moment I'm clicking in the preview. Okay, this is the OpenGL mode, when the quality freezes. In fact, I have a clear visibility of the geometry, a raw visibility of the material colors, but no shadows, no lights. And now this is the global illumination settings. The display mode of the preview can be set in this little list, and this little list will help me to make this combination of switch between the OpenGL or not, or to keep the standard global illumination mode for all the time. So what's the novelty for the preview window regarding 6.5? Is the introduction of the draft display mode, which makes this refreshment even faster. So maybe the scene may look a bit more pixelated, however, in a moment when it's done, then the scene appears very quickly. I see all the shadows, all the lights, materials, aspect clear in the preview, and I can continue in my next step. I have different other display modes, so the standard display mode, which is an a little bit more detailed display mode. It means it's less pixelated, the preview, so that's the difference. So the draft display mode is the novelty around 6.5 version. What is this global illumination a little bit? So let me speak a bit about the engine of Artlantis, and which calculates the light in a physically correct mode. It's a technique that was implemented starting version 6 of Artlantis that is called irradiance, which measures the incident light energy on surfaces. And knowing the material behavior, it partially absorbs the light energy and partially reflects it and follows the light until complete absorption. This will result in excellent high-quality scenes and very realistic scenes because it will reproduce exactly the way we experience the light in the real life. So our scenes will be very lifelike. If I want to check out the way this engine is can be edited, set, then I open the dialog for the engine settings. This is the rendering parameter dialog box, and here I have 5 sliders to set the engine: global illumination and sampling for material and lights. Let me highlight the few number of sliders, because this is in the principle, in the policy of Artlantis, to keep things simple, to use as few sliders as possible, and to increase the knowledge behind the sliders. And if somebody is not familiar with these sliders, there are some excellent presets that will help us to quickly preset our scenes, and the sliders, of course, will be calibrated based on that. What is the novelty for version 6.5? Is something that is once more behind the scene, because it was a huge work done since the release of version 6 to implement and optimize even better this brand new Artlantis engine for this version. So this optimization is something that is cannot be demonstrated. It can be told, and you will experience it in maybe a faster rendering, in a direct mode if you are rendering, making your renderings directly in Artlantis, and a render now feature, I mean, and more reliable functionalities of Artlantis, and stability, and all this are linked to this engine optimization, which cannot be presented, as I already mentioned. The rest of the parameters, maybe we will come back later for them from this dialog. The most important part was those 5 sliders for the engine. So let me continue and introduce you a little bit to this inspector for the cameras, and speak about those parameters we can set for camera and how we can set different presentation, and by reorganizing these parameters. So it means we will review a little bit them in this inspector. The first one is the focal. So every camera has a focal, and that's an imperative parameter. This little icon here will strengthen the vertical. So if the focal is too wide, then the third vanishing point will start to act and distort these verticals. One click and verticals are parallel again, even in a too wide focal. So this is the architect camera. Let me duplicate the scene to show you the way we can reorganize Other settings, let's see, around lights. We have a set of sun we set already in Artlantis that can be quickly reorganized by setting active and not active a different light source for our scene. And here it is. Very easily and quickly we can set a night scene. The thumbnail will be refreshed for the camera we prepared. So these thumbnails for the different camera views are a great graphical feedback, and I can easily refine the one I'm working with. So this was the reorganization of lights around the camera. Another possibility is to work with foreground and separate background images. I will show you nice examples a bit later on, and the way how to use it. Another possibility is to use a kind of clipping box. So let me clip out of this model, just opening the 2D window. The clipping box means a kind of bounding box with stretchable ends. And if I'm doing that, I can cut out from the model. I can prepare sections, plan views, top views, any kind of view can be cut from the model, and the presentation, it can become a new presentation, something that informs people about new possibilities about future building. So this is another way to work with Artlantis and to organize, reorganize the settings about the camera and to set up different presentations around the frame of single file. And of course the layers. The layers are meant to organize objects, and all these objects which can be turned visible or not visible because the layer was visible, set visible or not visible, allows us to do variations. So just imagine an interior with different furnishings. Using these layers in the frame of the same file, I can very quickly reorganize this furnishing and generate multiple presentations around it. Okay, it's time to speak about the sun, the environmental lights. So how we did create those suns which are figuring here in this little list. Let me switch to the Haliodon inspector, and now the drawer content changes, and here are listed all those suns we saw in the previous drop-down menu. The one is active for the present camera view is highlighted with bold. It's a sun based on exact geographical location. It means that it's the proper style of sun, type of sun to generate an exact sun study. If I would want to make a sun study, I need to locate my project on the globe. I have a huge list of multiple cities. But if my city is not on this list, I can edit, create new city, add the exact coordinate, and assign it to the model. And then of course I can continue to set up the sun to work out the direct light power and the sky power, through these sliders, sunbeam different effects here. And if I want to furnish the sky with clouds, then I can do it directly on the Artlantis 6 physical sky. So this is the novelty around the Haliodon sky, because previously we had to step back, so the implementation of the new engine requested wasn't done completely in some terms. One of that were the clouds. So now these clouds will be placed on this Artlantis 6 engine physical sky, and we can manage all those cloud types, 4 cloud types, distribute them, redistribute them in the sky if we want to change something, and if we find it's okay, then we accept and close the dialog. There are multiple sun types in Artlantis, and we can easily generate new sun types. I will call it manual, okay? And because I chose the manual sun, I will switch to this sun type, and then I'm ready to manipulate the position of the sun manually in the sky. And when I'm doing that, I'm doing through those icons. I don't locate anymore the model, and I even can continue to drag the sun right in the preview. Because this icon appears, I can grab it with my mouse, and when I'm doing setting the sun manually, I'm looking for a kind of mood presentation. It's not the precise sun study for a certain hour of the day, but it's much more about impression, sensation, a mood, and this is the usage of the manual setting of the sun. Okay. The next topic to highlight is how we can use an excellent background, an HDRI image, which will produce us the lighting of the scene as well. And this will be the example for the background I already mentioned. Let me take away this slide from front of the camera and discard any light, any halogen for the scene. No halogen at all, everything is black, because I would like to look for a nice background image. Okay, I choose image, and then I continue. That will be an HDRI image that will be rubbed in 360 degrees around my model. And in a moment it was applied. I check the light casting. It appears. I can even organize the background just to have a nice disposition of the clouds from this background. Okay, the scene already gets light, but I'm missing the shadows. So let me check the enhanced background feature. Okay, and in a moment this feature was checked. That's another novelty, small thing but very useful thing. I don't need to click again to refine preview. It is refreshed automatically. So if I'm navigating now, it will be refreshed with the enhanced background feature on. It means that all the small shadows, the radiosity shadows, the smooth shadows will be displayed in the preview without an extra click we had to do previously. So whenever you would like to have the smoothest shadows, the nicest light for your building, I encourage you to use the HDRI feature of Artlantis. Materials. Let's continue with materials. So see a little bit how Artlantis deals with materials. We have an interior scene. I open the inspector and I have a drawer content which now displays all materials I have in this project. However, I'm clicking and looking for material right in the preview. The inspector shows the settings and I can easily change anything to this. There is a very heavy color bleeding that can be corrected through the white balance feature, of course. So here is my pink or purple carpet, but I better take something more realistic from my library. So let me introduce you this extra drawer which allows me to share library parts for Artlantis, materials of any kind that I map on walls, on floors, or they want to simulate natural surfaces or objects or of different kind, or textures, billboards. So this catalog that is organized on categories and subcategories allows me to drag and drop directly from the catalog into the preview any material, any object, any media of Artlantis. Now, if I notice the parameters, which may be different from shader to shader, depending on the parameters, depending on the shader type. And many of these shaders can be opened in the shader editor, which will display the different maps the material is using to simulate the final aspect of it. I can complete it. I can change some parameters here, default parameters, or I can create my own extra shaders. So this technology is opened in Artlantis. You can add new materials. If you have a nice texture, you would like to convert it into a shader. The benefit of a shader is that it will be mapped on all surfaces which were set to have the same materials. Then you will store it in your catalog and you have an extra nice shader of yours you can use in any of your further projects. However, there is another way to extend this catalog, and let me introduce you to the Artlantis web store. So I have to log in. Here is my okay. Here I am the Advent online store, media store, that is organized exactly the same way as my catalog, so I can refine very easily all those materials I'm looking for. Here are the carpets. I already downloaded this carpet I was using in the project, but if I want to look for a different carpet, I can even ask for a larger view. It will show me in a rendering how that material will look like, and if I decide to go for it, I will download it, and it will be installed exactly in the same subcategory, so I will find it easily and use it in my scene. As it is organized exactly the same way, we can review the content of the catalog right here too. So 3D objects, I already mentioned 3D objects which are meant to furnish interiors, or they can be small little objects that enrich a scene, details, books, shelves, etc. They also can feature lamps that have already a light source included, and this light source will emit light in a moment the object was added to the scene. They can be furniture, office furniture, cars, different type of plants. There are beautiful plants in Artlantis Media Store coming from all over the world. Billboards and textures even. And here we also promote some HDRI images you can download and use the way I already showed you. Fine, let me continue and speak a little bit about objects which can be dragged and dropped into the scene exactly the same way as I did with materials. So let me get closer to this car. And place it correctly in the view. First of all, I will switch to the object inspector. Okay. the scene refreshes, and I open the inspector for objects, and I notice some icons that appear, which allows me to grab the object right in the preview very easily, to rotate the object. So I already can do some editing around this object. I can even grab one of these border lines of the bounding of the object and drag it to make it detect edges on the geometry. Now it was aligned. I will grab another copy, okay, parallel to it, set different material for it. I will say, okay, I would like to use independent material on this instance, which means if I change the material, then it will be changed only on one of the cars, but I can do it on this at the same time for all instances which are featuring the same object. So very easily some cars, let me show you about some plants which I will distribute in a different mode, very fast mode. I would like to do that. So I'm searching in my library. I will make first collection of trees, and let me choose this tree and another one, this one, okay, 3 of them. I will make a selection. I will retrieve in this special category here are my plants and distribute them not by dragging and dropping it, but simply dropping and dropping. I'm clicking anywhere on my preview, and randomly from this selection Artlantis will take one of the plants and put it in the preview. So that's a very nice drop and drop feature. That was that is its name. This is how it was called. Plants can behave differently up to a season, which makes them very interesting, because if I choose one of the objects, so let me choose this tree, I can set a calendar date for it. It means that the tree will behave differently. It will follow its own calendar. It will lose its leaves in January, it will blossom in spring, and it has 4 different aspects, and these leaves will turn yellow during fall. So all this helps us to generate nicer and more realistic scenes. To distribute objects, there are other methods as well. Let me check and search for some nice plants, small little plants I would like to distribute here in this area. Quickly on the 2D window, creating line, a spline with a new control point, distorting it, adding multiple copies, and hitting enter. And these plants were randomly rotated compared to one to each other just to avoid the repetition effect. Fast and easy to work with objects in Artlantis. So whenever you know that you would like to continue your project in Artlantis, your presentation you would like to prepare in Artlantis, I encourage you to use Artlantis objects. They are can be very easily organized, they can be very easily distributed, edited, changed, and with the layer setting, it is easy to generate even variations to your project. So here are these little plants we already distributed, and I continue, change the topic for lights. It's time to speak a little bit about artificial lights as well. Artificial lights, and open the inspector of them. We already have two lights in this scene, and if I select any of them, I will notice that some icons appear in the preview. And through these icons I'm able to make changes even, so I can change the direction toward this light leads, I can change the angle, and I even can change the position of this light in space with the help of this blue axis. So I can edit these lights, and further parameters appear in the inspector, so it can be turned on and off, change the color, change the power, and the power can be set in lumens. This is very important because now we have a clear control over the lighting of our scenes, and we can seek realism of the scenes, and we can seek real behavior of the light in our future, in our scenes, and control the way it will happen in reality. Then we can also assign projection patterns to such a lamp. There are some presets. It's very easy. Click, choose another preset, and then the light will change this pattern. Or if I'm also can add some IS profiles to this light. I have already chosen downloaded from the internet because lamp producers are putting at the disposal of architects most of the time the characteristics, the physical characteristic of lamps they are producing in such an IS files, which are converting these physical parameters into such a specific files to make them proper for visualization, to be used in visualization softwares. And Artlantis will take over from this IS file the power of the light, the angle of the light, and of course the projection, the way it casts the light. There is a second possibility behind this artificial light to generate lighting to our scenes, and this is done through a shader which is called the neon light shader. Let me drag and drop it into the scene here over this lamp and make it be turned on, because this shader can be set active or not for a camera view. And I'm just discovering its parameters now in the shader inspector, and I noticed that the power of the light for the neon light also can be controlled in lumens. So briefly about artificial lights, introducing you to artificial lights. Some other productivity tools: ambient occlusion, this virtual shadow that will enrich our scenes. And here is a situation with these stairs where the geometry it's not emphasized so well. It's a quite the shadows and the lit portions are not so differentiated. Therefore, I will use this virtual shadow in order to emphasize even more the steps, the stairs. So ambient occlusion is a feature that should be activated first, and then I will exaggerate very much the values for the size and for the intensity. The scene is refreshed. And so what's new for 6.5 is that once again the implementation was done in a way to not be forced to refresh with a second click the preview. This refreshment is done automatically. As you see, it was done, it was applied to the preview, and now I'm looking for a realistic value for the size, and okay, the intensity to make it credible. So just imagine a scene when there are some reliefs right below the ceiling and everything is painted in white. Such an ambient occlusion will enrich and will add more value to your presentation. Another small tool, but also very fashionable nowadays, is to turn all our model in a white model. So that can be done with one click again, very easily, because we switch engines now. In the same dialog, we switch to the white model engine, okay, and then all colors are filtered out from materials. Exceptions are on those materials which have a transparency assigned. So the color of the material and mostly of the reflection, as well as the color of the sky and the light will be kept. The rest will turn into a white model. This is the white model scene. And now the site insertion, so something that is very common to architecture. Architects would like to show the building in its future site, and Artlantis, being designed specially for architects, now reintroduces, designs the site insertion tool to make it even more accessible, more simple. So let me show you how it works. The point is to create the model and only the 3D model and place it in front of a background image as if it was already built. So here is my model, and then I'm looking for an image file for a background image to be used as a background image. Okay, background. Here is my background. I will use the site of the building, and the building which should be replaced by a new one. Open, apply it, and then I need to assign the size of this background image to the preview as well. Only one click, use the size of the background, okay? It means that the preview was stretched, the proportions of the my original JPEG or any very common image files I take with my digital camera, whatever, was applied, and the preview was stretched according to its proportions. And when all this done, I can open the dialog for the site insertion. Here it is. Make disappear the model or not. I have even a magnifier glass to see. Rolling the mouse wheel can zoom in, zoom out, or even turn off the magnifier glass. I will hide the building because I want to work only on the background image this time, and I have a XYZ coordinate system to place it on on the background, and the same I will control it on the 2D window for the model. So this axis, how I should take it. First point is the origin, and then I will select some fluence over the background anywhere I find nice visibility for the fluence, and managing these X and Y fluence will redress the position of the axis itself. Even a pedestrian walkway can be used for a fluent. Good. And if I'm doing well my work here, then the Z coordinate will become vertical, and even this dashed yellow line, which helps me to an additional help, which is for the horizon will turn horizontal. And when I agree with what I done with my settings, I have a second thing to set is a proportion with a second yellow dot over a part I can easily refine on the model as well. How large a facade should be. And here is this part I can easily detect, and in the 2D window I will check again the position of the origin, good, and the size of this second yellow dot, which will size the model. Good. So let's start. Make visible the model and start the calculation. I can always change something if I think that it's not well done, but if it's done correctly, I stop the calculation, I accept, and close the dialog, and my model is already in its future site. However, it masks some parts of the background, so I better apply a foreground image, a foreground which was generated from the same background, but masking parts of it with alpha channel. I will use the visibility of some parts of it only, and here it is. The car appears in front of the building here too, and the rest of the pedestrian walkway, and the insertion was done. Let me show you some examples. I have a nice site insertion example, but beforehand I'm navigating between my nice examples, renderings. Here it is, the site insertion example. All these are coming from the Gallery of Artlantis, so I invite everybody to visit the Gallery of Artlantis to see beautiful, nice renderings other people can do, get inspired from there. Here are the rest of my examples. This is a great HDRI background that was applied to this house. The house has a white coating finishing, but because of the color bleeding from the HDRI background, it gets colored very nicely because it features a sunset scene. So this is a great example for the HDRI. And here is the rendering we already know from the website of Artlantis. Back to Artlantis and back to the next feature, which is about the render manager. The render manager is something that Artlantis 6.5 introduces, is about the possibility to render an Artlantis file in a network, on a network, and this is brand new in Artlantis, and it can be done with a completely redesigned render manager. So how it works? First of all, let me save my file in an archive format. So I go Save As on the desktop. I prepare the folder for it, okay, and give it a name, blah, blah, blah. Artlantis archive file. The archive accumulates next the Artlantis native file all the media, shaders, materials, objects, and this is imperative whenever I would like to render my rendering on a network environment, because only in this way I can make sure that all media will appear on all, the information about the media will be dispatched for all client computers contributing to the calculation. So I did the saving, then let me send this rendering for a later computing. And that can be done by choosing Render Later feature. Here it is. Okay. That's all. And I'm ready to open the Render Manager. Here is the new Render Manager of Artlantis 6.5. It's an independent application which is installed automatically next Artlantis. Whenever you open it, you will notice two partitions. The upper side is about the client computers which are available on a network. I already have two clients open. The client computer runs a separate standalone application which is called Artlantis Client. One client running Artlantis is already installed because by default Artlantis installs it. For the rest of the computers, you are welcome to download from the Artlantis download page the Artlantis Client application, accessible free of charge, and you can install it on as many clients as you need and you want and as you have on your network. Then making a refreshment, all the clients will appear and their status, if it's white, means that they are ready to accept jobs dispatched by the Render Manager. The below side is about the tasks which were already done or which are new, queuing for a future calculation. And here is our new rendering sent for a new calculation. Its status means that it wasn't rendered yet. It's white. If it's green, it means it was done. I have the possibility to ask extra information, even to change some things for the future rendering, for example, the destination folder. And if everything is fine, I will start doing the calculation. The dot change orange, meaning that this job was started. One of the clients enters the game. It calculates the irradiance map for the whole project and then sends the task to the next client. So in a moment the client will continue, will enter into the process. Its dot changes again. So as it progresses, and we can see already both clients are working, and the number of buckets appearing on the preview size of the rendering shows, in fact, the number of clients running the calculation. This is an excellent tool to decrease the rendering speed of Artlantis. And Artlantis doesn't limitate the number of clients you can use on a network. You are free really to welcome to add the more computers you have. However, it is recommended to have the same configurations for computers, and Artlantis will use the maximum of RAM capacity of these clients. So, yeah, just in the meantime the calculation is running, however is doing very quickly. We see that the progression is on. Whenever you have an animation to be calculated, the preview won't be this, you won't have previews, or because each frame, the frames might be calculated, the different frames at the same time, so it's difficult to provide a preview. That's the case for the VR objects as well, because there are so many frames to be calculated. Artlantis Advent, offered and still continues to offer, however, in parallel, Artlantis Render Farm services, online services. So if you have a long animation to be calculated, maybe you should apply to them. However, for a rendering, for a shorter presentation, This can be easily done in a network environment. And the time of the rendering, one of the client already finished, the second is finishing his job as well. And when both are finished, it means that the dots are turning white, and we can open the rendering, the ready-made rendering in a viewer. So the time, certainly you are curious about the time. The time is roughly cut by the number of clients entering the process, participating in the process. Of course, there is an extra time while the irradiance map is calculated and provided, sent to the client, so this communication between the render manager and a client needs also a bit time. So here it is, the render manager, the biggest and most important novelty of Artlantis 6.5. Just the last thing to show, to go through the rest of the presentation mode, parallel views, also still images that can feature top views with a half of the clipping box, as you can see, or front views, and they can be rendered up to a scale. So this is very particular and also very specific to architecture of Artlantis. Panoramas, VR panoramas, can be set in Artlantis in a very easy manner. And when I'm setting panoramas, the navigation feature of the mouse changes, and I can review my panoramas exactly the same way I'm doing in a final rendering. The mouse is represented, the camera is represented in a different way, very easily, quickly. I can create new camera views, link camera views in between. These links appear right in the preview, so I can have a full control over the future panorama. VR objects are presentations which go the other way around, meaning that the camera rolls on a huge sphere and the model stays still. The navigation features for the camera changes, and I can control once again the future VR object. And animations. And when I'm preparing animations, I have an extra timeline because I'm editing sequences with a length of time. And on this, during this sequence, I can change the camera, I can change the objects can move, lights can move, I can generate a nice sun study, actions can be set even to shaders, so many things can be animated in Artlantis, and I also can review them in the preview. A final example to be shown, a nice example of a panorama, and I'm going on a website. I'm using a browser because such a panorama can be added to any website. It is calculated in HTML format or in a format to be distributed on mobile devices. This time it was added to a website. I'm opening the website of one of our key users from Portugal, Francisco Vidigal, who is making a nice presentation for his clients selling apartments. The links appear over the view, and I'm clicking from camera view to camera view, So in fact, a panorama is a guided tour of an interior or exterior, whatever. I can add in Artlantis plan views prepared in Artlantis, which add additional information to the scene. I can discover the way this apartment is organized, and over this plan view I refined the same camera positions. I can click on them and continue my tour, my visit of this future apartment. So let me keep this a little bit the final scene, and in the meantime invite you to visit the Artlantis website, visit the Artlantis gallery, download the Artlantis demonstration version of Artlantis, which is a fully functional version during 30 days. You are welcome to discover how Artlantis works for you in your own environment with your own projects, scenes, and participate. I also invite you to participate at in our forums, social media on Facebook and Twitter. And this is the end of my presentation. I'm looking forward to your questions.
Thank you, Ildiko. That was great. I love the panorama. We have, that's beautiful. I told everybody that this would be a stunning webinar. We have one question. Are all the features demonstrated today available in both Render and Studio? Can you list us the major difference between the two versions? Because I know the price is, you know, there's a big difference.
Yes, I see. Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Okay. So Artlantis has two main products. The Render is able to do still images. Still images are those examples, JPEG, PNG, TGA, what Artlantis can render. I showed for the first set of examples. Artlantis Studio is the second product, which is able to do still images, plus it is able to do panoramas, VR objects, and animations. So just going back into Artlantis, the rest of the features are identical. So the engine, the global illumination, there are no restrictions in terms of parameters for the engine or the behavior of light or materials. Even Artlantis Render as well as Artlantis Studio use the same resources. Only the presentations you can do with Artlantis Studio and Artlantis Render differs. So the only still images with Artlantis Render that are perspective views or parallel views. So these two presentations you will have in Artlantis Render, while in Artlantis Studio this list will be extended with panoramas, VR objects, and animations. So I hope I gave the answer to you.
Yeah, thank you. I think you did, and the quality is the same, so that's very important. You get top-notch rendering in both versions. And where can we find in-depth training for Artlantis?
I invite you once again back to the website to search our Artlantis website. Yeah. There are some tutorials already, community services here, tutorials, online training tutorials on the website, tutorials that are featuring, first of all, Artlantis 6.5. There are extra tutorials on the YouTube channel Artlantis Movies, or you are also invited to roll on in one of the trainings if you would like to have a guided let's say training of Artlantis. You are welcome to roll on one of our trainings. We are providing 2-hour online trainings, a kind of go-to-webinar interface to such a solution, where you can opt for different topics we are provided, or you can also ask for a customized training because you have specific question or you have a specific situation to solve, or you have questions for topics that are not listed.
Yes.
So these are the resources.
Yes. And if I may add, I think Artlantis is a very easy to use tool. I think the learning curve is not so steep. It's very fast to get it.
Absolutely.
So you'll be surprised. Yes. Okay, that's
Yes.
it. There's no more questions unless, well, I'm willing to wait for another minute. But in the meantime, how about I take the screen back? And
Okay.
so I start to conclude the presentation. I just want to thank everybody for participating today and joining our presentation. And please visit our webpage at novedge.com, where you can find both Studio and Render. And Novedge is the best place to buy design software online. And we have unbeatable prices across the board. And I want to remind you all that in 2 weeks we'll present another webinar on V-Ray 3.0 for SketchUp. And somebody also asked me if today's live demo was going to be available online for future views, and yes, I'll post it later today on YouTube and Vimeo. Just search for Novedge, and we have a channel with many webinar recordings, so you can spend the whole day on it and be entertained with a bunch of software. So I think the questions are done. I want to thank you so much, Ildiko, for today's incredible demo, and looking forward to the next one already. Bye, everybody.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.